am excited because we're going to be talking about your core message. Y'all know that we're all about your messaging, the way you show up, the way you impact the world. That's what we're all about. And we're starting with message for this month. We're talking about how to craft your core message, not really how to craft your core message, but how you put together your core message when you're passionate about multiple things. So this is something that a lot of people talk to me about. They say things like, I know a lot, right? And I know that was me. When I came into this industry in 2012, I was a business owner for many years before that in many different industries. So I was, passionate about a lot of things. I had my tax practice. I had a whole lot of things going on. I was still doing hair at my house. I had closed down my salon, but I was still doing hair. So I was in the beauty industry. I was in the finance industry. And then I was now coming into the online marketing industry. And so I was somebody that was really passionate about a lot of things, and I still am. And the people who I work with are the same. Okay. The people who I work with, they come with the same issues. So, that's why I wanted to start the year off talking about this. Here's where you might fall in, like what category you may fall in. Number one, you may be someone that's passionate about many things. Number two, you may be someone who's good at a lot of things, right? You may be someone who's filled with knowledge, like me, right? But then you also may be someone you've been in business for a while and you're hearing everybody talking about you should have 7 streams of income. This is something we talk about as entrepreneurs, right? And so you feel like, all right, well, me being multi-passionate means that I'm going to be creating these several streams of income. But what happens is you find out that you come online and maybe you feel like you're confusing your audience, or maybe you cannot get any of these ideas to become profitable, which is what happened to me. And so before I get into how you craft a core message, so that way, you can reach the right people and really become profitable, I have to say this to you. And if I don't say this, I will be doing a disservice. What truly works is sticking to one thing, making it profitable before you move to the next. Sticking, and now I have some other ideas, so don't run away yet, because if you listen and you're like, but I don't want to stick to one thing, don't worry, I got some ideas that's going to help you out too. But my biggest advice for those of you who want to follow what I'm saying and who wants to see a certain level of success, guys, you have to stick to one thing. You have to make that profitable. Okay. You have to make that profitable. One of the things that I do with my clients is I bring them in, help them structure their business. But my goal is to help them get focused so that way they can reach 5 figures every month, because I know that once they get there, that's when they'll be able to start using some of that income to go into other businesses. What a lot of people do, what I did, what you may be doing, just put a yes below if you're willing to admit what you may be doing is like, I'm working all these businesses, I'm trying all these different ideas, I'm passionate about all of it. However, I'm taking all the money to run these businesses out of my paycheck. I'm taking all the money to run these businesses out of my little savings, right? I'm taking every little dollar that I'm making this business and I'm spreading it across all these things that I'm passionate about. And so now I'm busy, but I'm unpaid. I'm busy, I'm not making enough money. Here's the first thing that I want to talk about. The most important thing that you have to do if you want to be able to be successful, even if you are multi-passionate, is you have to create a brand around yourself. You have to create a brand around yourself. People buy people. When for those of you who do not know, I used to be a hair salon owner before I came into the online marketing industry. And so when I was a salon owner, I, had a lot of clients and, they would come in, and there was one client that really always sticks with me, and I always share my story when it comes to her, because when I first started doing hair, I didn't know what I was doing. I was in the finance industry working as an account receivable clerk, as a bookkeeper, also my own tax practice. So that's what I was doing, not hair. I was never passionate about hair. I wasn't the one who had an aunt or a mom who did hair and I watched her growing up and wanted to become a hairdresser. No, I was about being profitable. And I knew that learning that skill would bring in money, and that's what I did. But when I first started, I didn't know how to do hair. So I used to really mess people hair up. I gotta be honest. And it was this one client, Miss Bobby. I did her hair, her weave. And I remember taking pictures on the back, like she's in the chair and I'm taking pictures and I can see the tracks. Guys, it was not a good hairstyle. And then I remember 2 years later when I opened my salon, she was the first person that came in the salon and I asked her, well, Miss Bobby, why did you decide to keep coming to me? Even though you knew in the beginning, I had no idea what I was doing. I was jacking you up. And she said, do you know how much I love you and your kids? I listened to your story. I saw you as a young woman who was working hard, who was trying to change her life. And that is what I wanted to support you. And I knew you would get better, Niala. Right. And that is the day that I learned that people buy people. They do not buy products and services. So if you want to be multi-passionate and you want to be able to, for people to follow you and buy all the different things you have, follow you no matter what you're doing, you have to build a brand around yourself. And the way you do that is exactly what I just said, sharing your story. We're going to be talking about this in the Monetize Your Message Challenge. So again, make sure you register because I'm going to go deep into this. Today, I can't give you everything, but I'm going to go deep into what it means to crafting a message and developing a brand that people want to follow, right? Because I'm going to tell you something. When I was in network marketing, which is what I did before I was in the hair salon, like seriously, I've been in every industry you could think of because I've always been on this mission to being rich. And that's just real. I want to make money because I want to give back. I want to take care of my family. I want to live a life that I'm happy about. I want to travel. I want to do the things I want to do. And that meant that I had to make money. So I always had that mindset, right? Anyway, when I was in network marketing, I used to jump from company to company to company. And then I started getting the name of somebody. Like when you see Niala, you know she in a different company. She coming to sell you something, right? But I used to notice that people would join me in any company I was in. You want to know why? Because they enrolled in me. And so that means that when I started, when I saw another company, I'm like, oh, I want, this interests me. I want to get into this. And I start sharing this with my people. They're like, okay, Niala, they trust me. So they're willing to go with me. And so that's the first way that you can be in a great position to be passionate about many things, to sell many things, and to still be able to craft a core message and have people following you no matter what and not confuse your audience. Okay. And don't worry, I got some other ideas for you there. What else did I learn from that? I learned that when you make mistakes, people will give you grace. When you make mistakes, people will give you grace. Okay. When when like this year, when I got sick, I realized, wow, my clients, they didn't leave me. If anything, they doubled down to support. You understand? My people, they didn't leave me. Ain't nobody, y'all still here. Nobody's went anywhere. Why? Because I have done a great job of building a brand, building rapport with you, nurturing relationships with you. And so you are enrolled in my brand. And so even people who are not coaches are in this group learning from me because I've built a brand. You got to develop a brand. All right. Next. So number 2 is finding a common denominator. Finding a common denominator. Let me recap because I don't want to confuse anyone who's now coming in. So number 1, you're developing a brand. So that way people will go with you wherever, no matter what you're selling, no matter what you're passionate about. But then number 2, find a common denominator. Write that down. So there is one of my colleagues, and she's also a squad member in this group. Her name is Sherry Somers. Sherry is in the finance industry. What I know about Sherry, and I'm using her as an example because she has done this beautifully. So if y'all want to know what I'm talking about, look up Sherry, okay? So Sherry is in the finance industry. She sells life insurance. That's one thing that she does. She's also a coach, right? But what she did is instead of saying, I'm a coach entrepreneurs or I'm a coach everybody, right? What she did is she said, I'm going to coach financial coaches, right? Because that's going to be easier for her. That's her story. She's in the finance industry. She could share her story. She could develop a brand around her finance expertise, right? And she won't have to worry about, oh, I got to talk about 5 different things, or I got to talk to 3 or 4 different people if she stick in one industry. So her common denominator is finance. All right. Her common denominator is finance. And she's talking about wealth and money and budgeting and and investing and all of that is under one industry. That's the common denominator. So it makes it easier for her to say, hey, I'm Sherry Somers, right? I am a financial coach. Not only do I provide insurance for individuals, right? But I'm also helping other financial coaches become wealthy by helping them grow their business, whatever. It makes it a lot easier for her to come up with a core message that's not confusing. Is that making sense to you? So you have to find that common denominator. Okay, so let's recap again. Number one, you're developing a brand so people will always move with you no matter what you're selling, no matter where you're going. Number two, you got to have that common denominator. So I want you to write down on your piece of paper when you're done here all your different businesses, all the things that you're passionate about, whether it's a product that you sell or you're a coach or write everything down. And then I want you to look at it with clear eyes and say, okay, what is the common denominator in all of these things that I'm doing? And how can I craft a core message that speaks to that common denominator? Make sense? Next, this is my last one. No, I got two more. Next one is keep it simple but impactful. Keep it simple but impactful. And doing that exercise that I just told you is really going to help you with that. Keep it simple yet impactful. The biggest mistakes one of the mistakes that I see coaches make when they're crafting their core message is that they are overcomplicated. They want to say too much when they talk about what they do, so they confuse people, or, they use all this snazzy language that people really don't understand. It's very important that you keep your message very simple. You got to be consistent with your message, because when you're multi-passionate, guys, what happens is you tend to talk about a lot of different things, right? And so when somebody who doesn't know you come to your profile and they see, well, one post you're talking about health, and then this post you're talking about money, and then this post you're talking about something else, they don't know what you do. And a confused mind don't know how to take action. And so what happens is they're going to pay attention to the person who's consistent with that core message where they could go to them and clearly see how that person can be a solution to them. Does that make sense? And so another thing is they get used to repetitive things. When you see something over and over again, they start to associate you with that message. And that's why everything that I'm sharing with you is so powerful, because one, if you be repetitive, you start to develop a brand. People ask me, how do you develop a brand? Well, you lay out your message, you lay out who you serve, you lay out what makes you different, and you stay consistent with it. Because the more repetitive you are, I did not become known for helping people market their message by talking about a million things. Right? And so being consistent, market your message, the group was all about message. The signature program is about message. The signature system is about message. Everything is about message. So it's repetitive. So when you think of Niala, you think of market your message. Make sense? So you got to be repetitive. It's going to help you build the brand, which is number one. But then two, when you find that common denominator, which was number two, and you're repetitive with it, and you continue to talk about that, what should I call it? It is a common denominator, but I want to come up with a different word. I'm going to say an umbrella, right? Because this is the common denominator. This is the umbrella. And then you have the different sprouts that come down. And those are the different things that you do that fall under the umbrella. That's a good way of explaining it, right? That's a good way, right? So when you find that and you're repetitive over and over again, talking about that common denominator, then you will no longer confuse your audience. Because this is the biggest thing that multi-passionate entrepreneurs tell me. I'm confusing my audience. I'm confusing myself. And so if I'm confusing myself, I know I'm confusing them.